What's going on, guys? Big Palmy here again, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to properly program your training. Um, Properly programming your training is extremely important. It's going to really set you up for success for the whole workout. So, what do I mean about properly programming? Right? What I'm talking about is how to approach your workout to get the best results out of it and get the maximum efficiency. So, when it comes to programming your training, I like to approach training in four stages, right? Stages being one, activate the muscles. Two, this is going to be your strength and compound movements. Three, this is going to be your pump and accessory movements. And then lastly, I like to stretch the muscle at the end, right? So let's talk about activation. Activation is the most important part of the workout, right? This is where you're activating the muscles and preparing them in preparation for that compound movement, right? That bread and butter movement, the whole workout. So without activation, if you're not properly activating the muscle, you're not going to allow yourself to maximally recruit the muscle fibers later on in the workout where you need them most, right? So when we talk about activating the muscles, what I mean is you want to start off your training with a movement that allows you to really connect with that muscle, that really allows you to initially get that pump. For me, a lot of times it's a unilateral movement. It's like a single arm movement or a single leg movement. So just for a typical example, arm days, if you want to start training arms, I'll typically start off with like a cable curl. So I'll put the cable pulley all the way down at the bottom, and then I'll take a step back, and I'll start doing some cable curls. That, for me, cable curls really allow me to get a nice tight contraction of my biceps. I would not start off with a barbell curl, right? That's a big compound movement, and it kind of takes away from your ability to really maneuver and adjust the movement to properly get that tightest contraction. I also like starting my back days off with like a bent over dumbbell row or a single arm barbell row. Both those movements really allow me to get a nice, deep, tight contraction in my back. For leg days, I always start my leg days off with either a leg extension or a leg curl. And just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about, why it's so important, right? In 2016, 2017, 2018, I was a really big squatter. I was a really heavy squatter, 500 pounds for reps. My legs were growing for a while in the beginning, and then come 2018 and 2019, my legs stopped growing. They weren't responding anymore. And what I really noticed when I took a step back and looked at it is I was no longer getting a good quad pump. I was no longer getting good tight contractions in my quads. I couldn't really feel the muscle anymore. I was so focused on getting my squat stronger, thinking that squatting big will in turn give you big legs. But really, I lost that connection to my quads. So I took a big step back. I actually barely squat anymore. But what I did do to fix this is I started really paying attention to my activation. So when I first walked into the gym, the first thing I would do is I would blast leg extensions. I would do leg extensions for 20, 25 reps, and then I would go against the wall and do a wall sit for 30 seconds, just to really stimulate those quads and get all the blood in there as much as possible. The more blood you have in there, the more you're going to be able to feel and contract that muscle and get in a tighter contraction with that too. So the next stage of your workout is going to be your strength and compound movements, right? This is really the bread and butter of your workout. This is what the entire workout should be based around. This is typically going to be like a bilateral movement. This is going to be your heavy movement. This is going to be your power movement where you're going to make the most strength gains out of it and really be able to break down and recruit those muscle fibers for maximum muscle gain. So when we talk strength and compound movement, there are two pieces that I think are really important that don't get touched on enough. And that's both the being explosive on the concentric and also, it's being both explosive on the concentric and to really take advantage of the eccentric part of the movement, right? So the concentric part of the movement is the actual working portion of it. So if it's a bicep curl, it's the actual curling of the motion, and then the eccentric is the releasing of the muscle. So it's bringing it back down. So when you talk about concentric, you want to be explosive here. You want to be powerful. The more explosive you are, the more powerful you are, the more muscle fiber recruitment you're going to generate, and that's going to in the end game, that's going to allow more satellite cells to shove to those muscles and start, cell proliferation and really helping to grow that muscle. When it comes to the eccentric part, and this is the part that most people don't pay attention to, right? When you think about performing any kind of rep, whether it's a curl, a bench press, a squat, the eccentric part of the movement is literally 50% of that movement. So if you're not controlling that and bringing that weight down slowly and still squeezing those muscles, you're missing out on 50% of the movement. And here's why it's so important to take advantage of the eccentric part of the movement. Not only are you stronger in the eccentric part or the isometric part of the movement, but you also use less motor units in the eccentric part of the movement than you do the concentric. So what that means is not only can you handle more weight, but you're overly taxing those muscle fibers because they're using less motor units, and you're actually going to be able to generate more muscle growth from that eccentric part than you would from the concentric. So when you're going to perform the concentric movement on the compound movement, you really want to take advantage of controlling that weight down, and you really want to focus on getting like a good, probably like almost a 2-second count on the way back down for that movement. That's going to really ensure that you generate the most potential muscle gain for that. What you also want to focus on while you're doing your compound movements is exercise selection. Like I said earlier, the strength and compound stage of the workout is really meat and potatoes of the workout. This is where you want to assess your physique and determine what areas need the most attention. What area do I need to bring up the most? Because this is where you're going to, generate the most force and be able to get the most gains out of this movement. So for me, quads, adductors, when I'm looking at a leg day, those are the two muscle groups that I really want to bring up the most. So if I really want to attack, my adductors and quads for a day, a good exercise choice might be a very heavy, wide stance leg press. When I go wide in the leg press and you come down low, that's when you're really going to stretch that adductor. And then, with certain feet placements and, articulation of my foot on the pad, I can really target the quad at the same time too. So when you're, approaching your compound movement, what I would say is choose the movement that is going to help address your weaknesses, and then use those workouts to help enhance that area. So the next stage in the workout is your pump and accessory stage, right? This is where you want to just really achieve a pump, and you want to start throwing in like your accessory movements and your finesse movements, areas that need attention, but don't necessarily need all that heavy weight to help stimulate them to grow. Maybe it's also just areas that you want to just keep in check, right? They don't need to grow quite as much as as your compound movement area does, but they still need some stimulation. So this is where you just really want to pump the workout out. You want to start maybe increasing your reps a little bit. So if you're on your compound movement and you were focusing more on the 8 to 12 rep range, maybe here this is where you want to start focusing on maybe 10 to 15, sometimes 20 reps. You're really just trying to force as much blood into those muscles as possible. The more blood you get in there, the more nutrient delivery you get into those muscle groups. And then lastly, I typically like to end my workouts with a stretch type movement. So this will be the fourth and last stage of the workout. Like I just said, it's going to be more of a movement where you allow a stretch to come to that muscle. So if it's a leg day, I like to typically end my leg days with a straight leg deadlift, whether it's dumbbells or barbells. It really allows me to get a full range of that muscle and allow those muscles to relax and allow more blood to flow into there again. You could even also, it's not an actual exercise movement, but I like to do a quad stretch at the end too sometimes. Just kick that foot back up and really pull in that quad and stretch that muscle. For your chest, it might be some pec flies. On my chest day, I'll typically do 2 pressing movements and a fly movement, ending with that fly movement. On a back day, it could be your lat pull down. It could just be even weighted hangs on a pull-up bar. But just the idea of it is to just stretch that muscle to allow more nutrient delivery back to those muscles again, which of course at the end is going to help you grow. So I hope this helped you guys out. Again, just to kind of recap the 4 stages. When you approach your workout, you want to first activate, then perform your compound and strength movement. Then you're going to do your pump and accessory stage, and then you're going to stretch the muscle out. So if you guys could, please remember to like and subscribe to this channel and stick around for more content. Thanks.